Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Assistive Technology and Accessibility News. I appreciate your patience with me last week as I was traveling from Canada to Germany. The weekly live will need to be at a different time until I change time zones because I don't think y'all want me trying to do that at 3 a.m. I believe I am over the jet lags, at least enough to function. So let's get into the news. In Ontario, a groundbreaking brain-computer interface, or BCI, technology is giving children with disabilities new ways to connect with their surroundings, using only their thoughts. 10-year-old Irelynn, who is nonverbal and has limited mobility, can now activate a toy that plays music simply by thinking about clapping. Developed at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Toronto and funded by a $30 million donation from the Slate Family Foundation, the technology is expanding to other centers like the John McGivney Children's Center in Windsor. BCI works through a headset that reads brain signals, allowing children to control objects like toys or machines. I guess, side note, this could be associated with like switch control. So you're using just a different method to activate the toys. So yeah, so it's just, it may, to me, I equate it with it being a different kind of control, but it's definitely more elaborate, definitely more complicated. But that's one way you can think about it. Therapists and families describe the impact as emotional and transformative. While the technology is still evolving, especially in adapting these adult-sized headsets for children, it is already changing lives and offering new hope for the future of accessible technology and assistive technology. The second story is about the new report from the Royal Society that highlights the transformative power of digital assistive technologies like voice assistants and smartphone apps in helping disabled people live more independently. But it warns that high costs, poor infrastructure, and lack of inclusive design still prevent many from accessing these essential tools. Based on surveys, international case studies, and expert input, much of which comes from disabled people, the Disability Technology Report calls for greater investment, inclusive policymaking, and treating smartphones as vital assistive devices. It also urges better disability data collection and support for research methods like small data to develop more personalized technology. These technologies are life-changing, but they remain out of reach for too many, said Dr. Hamid Haroon, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, a member of the steering committee. He continues, disabled people must be central to designing the solutions that affect their lives. The report emphasizes that inclusive, sustainable digital technology benefits everyone, especially as disability can affect anyone at any point in life. This one's going to be rough, so trigger warning. A recent expose and human rights reports have cast renewed scrutiny on U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, accusing the agency of systematic abuse and neglect of disabled detainees. The 22-year-old agency faces growing public outcry, with critics describing its treatment of disabled immigrants as inhumane and potentially criminal. A June 8th article in the Disabled Ginger highlighted how ICE facilities often worsen existing disabilities and even cause new ones. The report criticized both ICE and mainstream media for downplaying or ignoring the suffering of disabled detainees, drawing historical parallels to eugenics-era policies. Two high-profile cases underscore these concerns. The first is Alma Bowen, a disabled Filipina mother who was detained for 30 months over a decades-old offense. She reportedly faced medical neglect and separation from her children. Bowman later became a whistleblower, exposing forced medical procedures at Georgia's now-closed Irwin County Detention Center. She was redetained after a routine ICE check-in. The second is Rodney Taylor, a double amputee from Liberia. He remains in ICE custody in Georgia, And despite having lived in the United States for decades and receiving a gubernatorial pardon, Taylor's green card application remains unresolved. He has been denied proper prosthetics, power wheelchair access, and adequate medical care. Physicians for Human Rights reported 68 deaths in ICE custody since 2017. Disability rights advocates warn that conditions inside detention centers echo abuses in the border prison system, where disabled individuals are often disproportionately incarcerated and neglected. Activists call for accountability and reform, urging the public to support detainees like Bowman and Taylor, who have risked speaking out. Yeah. So even with what we're seeing on television about people getting kidnapped by ICE, this brings focus to a more dire issue, and it needs to be resolved soon. I'll just say that. If you made it this far, please hit like and subscribe and share this episode with anyone who you think might be interested. Thank you. Next, I will talk about training. This is my training resource of the week. It's actually several trainings over the next 6 months. Free trainings by Ability. And it's the National Training Workshop Encore webinars from 2025. So each 1 hour webinar begins at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the given Wednesday of the month. For session descriptions and more information, you can go to www.agraability.org/NTW-Encore. So there's a training on July 16th called Farming with Purpose, how the New Mexico Agri-Ability Project supports individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities through adapted apprenticeship. August 20th, you have Low Vision Smartphone AT. September 17th, you have Boots to Business Overview. October 15th, From Loss to Resilience, The Science of Grief. November 19th, Be Calm, Be Well. I wonder if that has anything to do with bees. It's spelled B-E-E, both of them. And then December 17th, Why Do My Hands Hurt and What Can I Do About it? So there's a question and answer period scheduled for each presentation. And to participate in any of those free 1 hour webinars, I will have the link below. And please pass on, once you get it, you're welcome to pass on to anyone else that may be interested. These are free. It does not say if CEUs are provided for any or all of these sessions, so I'm going to email them and I'll let you know once I figure out a good time to do the live this week. And then I will let you guys know during the live. I think what I'm going to do is it's going to end up being at noon on Wednesday instead of 6 p.m. And I am a day ahead, so for me it might be Thursday. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that, and I will let everyone know when I can get that scheduled. We may just have to skip another another week until I figure out the timing on that. And yeah, but I'll be here for a little over a month. I've decided to hit up a couple of different cities, and yeah, so I'll keep you abreast on what I decide. So lastly, let's talk about the AT or accessibility option of the week, and that is noise reduction options. So when most people think of reducing noise for an individual who has a difficulty in a loud environment, they think of noise canceling headphones. But not everyone can tolerate wearing them. Not everyone can necessarily afford really good ones. And you always have to make sure that there's a power source to run the noise canceling. So they either have to be charged or something like that. If they're wireless like these, they may very likely need to have a full charge in order to last long enough. And I think it even cuts off on these when I'm not using the microphone or something. So that could be in the settings. So, I mean, they differ very much. I had to, because I was working with a client who needed connection to an office phone, and those are special a lot of times. She worked at a hospital, but she was on the phone all day. That was her work. She had attention issues, and the stuff that the accommodations that they had tried to use. So there's some more noise reduction options, or just white noise running in the background, and then using some kind of separation. There was a separation between each desk. They actually put up file cabinets as separation, and then like noise absorbing um, tiles on the ceiling. On the, I think it was a drop ceiling, but yeah, so they may have installed those instead of the regular drop ceiling tiles. I'm not sure. So yeah, so they'd done all this stuff, but it ended up making one of her coworkers get louder. So, but the coworker was not, uh, maybe not wanting to admit that she had a hearing issue. So, she really needed, like, individually, she needed the noise canceling headphones. There was an article this week, and the reason I want to talk about noise reduction options, it brought, it made me think about this. So I mentioned a few of those, a few already, like, special tiles on the ceiling, separations between each of the desks, playing white noise in the background. Um, so having these options for reducing echoes and noise within a loud environment without the need for an individual assistive technology or accommodation, if it had worked in that situation. It wasn't working for my client in that situation, so it's not going to work for everyone, but it makes the environment more accessible for more people. So maybe some of her other coworkers, I didn't ask because it was none of my business at the time. I was working with this client and she was telling me what was going on. And I was in the environment, so I could see and experience what was going on as well. So I do have firsthand knowledge that, yeah, the coworker was pretty loud when she was on the phone. We did have to do an individual accommodation for that reason. But I, unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't, like, poll the rest of the coworkers to see, hey, does it work for you? They may have gotten their own headphones. I don't know. It was none of my business at the time. But that would have been interesting to know. But yeah, so unless it's, say, someone in there with a hearing problem, that the white noise is added background noise and maybe causing problems with their ability to hear, and they get louder to talk over it or something, like they don't realize that the person on the other end can't can't hear the white noise and can hear them fine. Yeah, it could cause other problems. But this article that I found was very interesting, and it talks about a Utah school that has added felt to walls in the noisier environments, such as their lunchroom, to help students with sensory issues. The administrator of one of the schools in the district, B.J. Weller, had brain cancer with lingering after effects that took away the ability to focus in noisy environments. As we all know, school cafeterias, auditoriums, gyms, and other gathering areas can get very noisy with a bunch of kids in them, right? That is increased when the environment also produces echoes. So it gets a little bit louder depending on the acoustics of the environment. BJ realized that there were likely students who also had issues with the loud echoing noise in these areas of the school. And now even the principal has noticed, since they've installed these felt panels, that students are more receptive to entering the loud spaces like the cafeteria. When students push back and not want to enter the cafeteria to these being installed and then walking in just fine, it's a clear indication that the sound isn't as difficult to tolerate anymore, said Principal Stacy Noffsinger. The company with which the school collaborated is called Felt Right. And I like the pun, that's cute. Felt Right. On the company website is the statement, discover the beautiful functional way to eliminate unwanted noise and echo with multifunctional acoustic panels. And I know we've all seen some of those uglier soundproofing materials that in the YouTube creator videos. Those are always an option. And they're likely cheaper, and there are ways you can dress those up as well. But the felt wall panels are actually designed to be aesthetically pleasing, and you might be able to make your own. But let's take a look at the website. I just want y'all to see. And the website is feltright.com, Feltright. Here we are on the website, and there's the statement that I read. It says, feel better in your space and shop all designs. But yeah, some of the design stuff, this is, here they have some vertical bar looking felt panels. I'm not sure what the measurements are, but they're all fairly even, and they're different colors. So you've got like a light pink, um, is that a taupe? I'm not sure. There's some orange and some white. So it's aesthetically pleasing, and it looks like you can mix and match the colors uh, per what design you would like. And if you go down, there's some little icons here, but there's also text underneath. So it talks about customizable, sound dampening, pinnable, which probably means that you can do it, you won't damage the wall. You can do it to where you're not damaging the wall, easy to install, sustainable, and commercial grade. I'm not sure what that means. But here are some other designs that they have. So those were just like vertical, rather slender tiles. And so these are all different designs here. And so you've got one called Earth Mini Shaded Mountain Design, and it's a bunch of triangles, and that are different colors. And so like one's gray, one's a darker like burgundy or red, and then you have an off-white and an olive green. And it looks like the way that they've got them set up looks like mountains. And it also looks like you can use them as you would a cork board as well, because they've got keys. And oh, that's what pinnable meant. Oh, okay, I get it, pinnable. Okay, so you can use pins in it like a cork board. That's cool. And then there's a mod clay, and this is a bunch of circles that are split into two different colors. So you've got like a dark brown and a burgundy, and then you've got dark brown and a gray, and they're all turned different ways to make the design fancy. And then you've got warm medium shaded mountains. So this is just different colors from it's a bigger mountain scene with the triangles, and it's got like navy and gray. So yeah, and then you've a green ombre. It looks like a bunch of smaller tiles made into a larger board. So there are a lot of different ways that you can set these up. It looks like all different kinds of colors. There's even one called Plaid Bliss, and it's all different colors and just a bunch of squares. But as they overlap, they change color, and yeah, it's just interesting. So then there's shape play, which is all okay. Oh man, my ADHD would love that one. I could stare at it for hours. So, there's wall games apparently, and then there's engraved tiles that will do that as well. They have some other things like the ceiling baffles and dividers and wood slats and things like that have been around for a while. But these are really nice. I think it's a great idea. There may be other companies out there that do this. This just happens to be the one that's mentioned in the article. And I thought this was a really good idea to show this option as a noise reduction option, since I'm talking about those this week. Thanks again for joining me for Assistive Technology and Accessibility News. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Obligatory. I appreciate your time learning about assistive technology and accessibility with me, and I will see you next week. Signing off from Germany. Bis bald!